Now, on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app, O'Connor and Company.
6:07, and Kamala Harris's book tour is not going well. It was the second day of her book tour yesterday, Bethany Mandel, and she did Joy Reid's YouTube podcast streaming show. That's
a thing?
It is a thing, because she's not on MSNBC anymore. And I don't know if that's a top-tier media appearance to sell books. Let's face it, Joy Reid's audience on MSNBC, let alone her audience on YouTube, are not known for being, what's the word I'm looking for, literate.
I also have a suspicion that they are not very interested in her. I don't know. They don't really forgiving.
Yeah, I don't think so either. Well, we'll get to the details. Even Terry Moran turned on her yesterday with Jake Tapper. We'll play that for you.
I can't wait for that.
Also at 7:05, Jonathan Fahey, former acting ICE director. 7:35, KT McFarland. 8:05, Jim Jordan, chairman of the Judiciary Committee. It's Larry O'Connor with Bethany Mandel, as you just heard. Okay. Now, there's still discussion going on in this country over the announcement that the FDA is going to put new guidelines on the use of Tylenol for what's the word we're looking for here? Pregnant people? Is that?
Yes, we're still people. That's right.
Pregnant people, yeah.
Yeah.
I kid, of course. For women, pregnant women. And the new guidelines will suggest that the benefits of Tylenol outweigh the dangers of prolonged and sustained fever. But if you do take Tylenol, you should use the lowest effective dose for the shortest amount of time and only as needed. That means fevers over 100.4 or severe pain, and of course consult with your physician on that. And that seems, as a person who's never been pregnant, although, if you listen to the left, you would, I guess, be under the comprehension that I could be pregnant, although I'm not sure that's possible. That seems reasonable to me. Bethany, you have been pregnant, God knows, multiple times.
Many.
And I know you had, I missed the show on Monday. I had a day off, but I know that you had some strong feelings about this. Before we get into some of the other further reaction, why don't you set up where you're coming from on this issue?
So I wrote a column last week, maybe the week before, for the New York Post anticipating this. And I think a lot of the modern parenting discourse leaves the needs of mothers behind. And that is a lot of my frustration with how we talk about motherhood on the left and on the right. And so on the right, I see a real martyrdom complex happening where women have to just sacrifice everything, including their own comfort. And so I bristle at a lot of the discourse about why women don't need Tylenol. Well, I mean, then no one needs Tylenol ever. So let's just never have any pain relief. I don't think that's a fair expectation, especially if we want to increase the birth rate, because I did the math recently, I think 5 years, maybe 6 years of my life pregnant. And when you're pregnant, you can't take anything for anything ever.
Right.
And so it's funny because now that I haven't been pregnant now for almost 3 years, I forget there are things that you can take. I'm like, oh, I could take a decongestant. I didn't forgot that existed because I haven't had that on the table for the last 10 years. Also because you have to limit what you ingest when you're breastfeeding as well.
Right.
So I bristle at a lot of the conversation around this. That women don't need it, and it's selfish to want to take it. But then I'm also frustrated because the science that links Tylenol to autism and ADHD is not great. It's very, very shaky science, and the best indication I think it's a multifaceted thing: environment, genetics, all of these things that contribute to that diagnosis, but one of the best links we have is actually fever.
Well, so that's what's confusing to a lot of people, because we've had pregnant women with fevers forever. But we haven't had these rising rates of autism like we've seen forever. There's got to be something new in the mix. That's why people looked at the vaccine schedules. That's why people look at various aspects of this. And then it's one of the reasons why people look at Tylenol because, I don't know, I mean, you can tell me your personal experience, but I know that the mother of my children, my ex-wife, when she was pregnant, she was told by her OBGYN, if you have a fever, go ahead and take Tylenol. It's perfectly safe. Well, that's not true. So, that's just not true. It's not perfectly safe. It may be safer than other pain relief medications, but it's not perfectly safe.
Yeah, I mean, I was told I actually just pulled up Amazon because I wanted to see. I was told basically you could take like a single children's chewable Tylenol.
There you go. Yeah, we were not told that.
Yeah.
We were not told that.
So that's always what I was told. And I know that I took it, but very infrequently. And I'm not. I wouldn't make a different decision. Like, I would make a different decision about the COVID vaccine. I would not get the COVID vaccine while pregnant again. And I did do that. And I am glad it worked out. But I know a lot of people for whom it didn't work out.
That's the other thing that burns people up,
yes.
Is that the same people are saying, Tylenol's perfectly fine. Shut up, RFK. Shut up, Trump. You don't know what you're saying. You're scaring people. Are the same people who forced the COVID vaccine on everyone saying it was perfectly safe. And we know now otherwise. And so, again, these public health officials don't really have the greatest track record
That's right.
in lecturing us. And that goes about quadruple for late-night comics, which brings us to this moment. Leland Vittert, who you'll remember as a Fox News anchor, he's now an anchor on News Nation, he revealed last year that he is on the autism spectrum. And so he has a very unique, just as you, Bethany, have a very unique perspective on this as a woman who has been pregnant 6 times, Leland Vittert also has a unique perspective. And he spent a moment yesterday talking about the stand-up late-night comics who decided that this was a big joke. Take a listen.
You can't blame anyone, even Donald Trump, for seeking answers. But experts in the field caution that what President Trump said in his speech yesterday was, and I don't want to get bogged down in technical jargon here, crazy.
It's hilarious, isn't it? President Trump and RFK Jr.'s press conferences had late-night comedians riotously laughing. There's more interest in scoring political points and demonizing RFK Jr. than in figuring out why there's an explosion in autism cases. To them, the discussion on autism was just fodder for laughs, which is patently offensive. And interesting coming from the left that purports themselves to be oh so tolerant. How many press conferences did Biden hold on autism? We went back and looked. Ready? 0. Did any presidents previously get in front of the country and say there is a scientific question of our time that needs to be answered about why the exploding number of autism cases is happening? No.
That's right. And good for Leland. I'm very proud of him to show that kind of passion about this issue. And it's got to be hard for him to, in the business that he's in, to reveal to his audience and to his employers that he, in fact, has this condition as well. That's what needs to be a part of this discussion, that there are millions and millions and millions of people and their parents and the people who love them who want answers. And we've been told we're not even allowed to ask the question, let alone get an answer. Hold that thought.
Yeah.
We'll get to it in just a moment. There's more to discuss. It's 6:15.
WMAL, making sense of the news. Live from the Home Paramount Pest Control Studios. Home Paramount, the leader in pest control since 1939.
Your next $1,000 could be one text away. It's $5K a day on WMAL.
And so the conversation continues. If you look on Tylenol's own bottles, it says this is not for children under 12 years old. It says do not use more than 10 days unless directed by an FDA. There's a lot of warning signs on these things. Tylenol themselves, on their branded Twitter account in 2017, said we don't recommend using any of our products while pregnant. And we've had studies going back over 15 years. Now, I know that you said that the science isn't great on those studies, but there does seem to be the majority of studies out of 49 or 47 that were looked at, the vast majority of them suggest that there is potentially a link. And again, I think that the frustration that you heard from Leland Vittert and from parents and individuals, and again, full disclosure, I have an 18-year-old boy who is still nonverbal. to this day. He's struggling. He's trying. He wants to talk desperately. Thankfully, we've had great breakthroughs with him over the years. We discovered that he was on the spectrum when he was about 2.5 years old, and we didn't know then, and we still don't know exactly what his full potential will be because of that condition. And yet we are told, let me be clear, I'm not looking for a cure. I don't think he needs to be fixed. He is who he is, and I love him for it. But I know that he is frustrated. I know that he wants to improve. And without looking back and saying, oh, what happened? How did this occur? If we can find out more information to keep other parents and other individuals, maybe parents who aren't as equipped as I am to be able to make my way through this challenge with our youngest child, then that would be a good thing. And yet we are told that even asking those questions is dangerous and offensive and harmful. And there needs to be some middle ground here, I think, Bethany.
Yeah, and I want to plug Leland's book. It just came out just 2 days ago, actually. And what I love about him is something that I love about you is that, actually what I love about his father. His father ignored all the experts who told him this is how you raise your child with autism. And you basically give up was the answer he was given.
That's what we were told too.
Yep.
Yeah, we were told when he was in 3rd grade, we said, well, the best we can do is maybe he'll be a janitor.
Yeah. And so his father basically set to training him to function the best that he could. And it was a lot of tough love, and it was a lot of things that we're told as parents you can't do anymore. You have to you can't teach kids how to live in the world. You have to expect the world to become malleable to your kid. And that's not fair. And so the reason he was successful is because his father was like, no, he needs to be able to function the best that he can. And so he trained him. And I think it's a very interesting book, especially for parents of kids who are on the spectrum who are there is some wiggle room with verbality and whatnot. But another thing that I think the reason why there was no press conferences under President Biden and all these things is because the label autistic has become a source of pride for people on the left. They walk around with this label that they're proud of. And so autism has really lost a lot of its meaning because they have they have turned it into, well, I'm autistic. No, you're not.
Yeah,
you're not.
And listen, there's a reason why they say it's a spectrum, and there are varying degrees of how autism. And Leland Vittert would be somebody that would be referred to as a high functioning.
I wasn't sure if I was allowed to use that. Yeah. Because it's also policed now.
Well, yeah, the reason why, listen, anyone wants to come after me, go ahead. I'll introduce you to my son, okay? Please, I'm done with that. Because I've seen the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah.
Vividly.
Yeah.
Not just with my child,
it's not a joke.
but with other children. It is not a joke, and it is rough. And this has been something that, I'm always told that the suburban soccer moms are the demographic politically that everybody wants to go after. Well, it's those suburban soccer moms who have to cope with much of the angst involved with raising a child on the spectrum. And you can give lip service. When Abigail Spanberger and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton say that they're the most important voters, these suburban moms, all they care about is making sure that babies can get killed in the womb. But what about the babies who are born and need help? And these
and those are the Maha moms.
They are the Maha moms.
They are the moms that think there's something deeply wrong with a lot of the way that we talk about health, a lot of the way we talk about parenting. And I'm not Maha. I understand
that. But listen, I brought my own personal experience into it just because it's impossible not to in this. But you don't have to have a personal experience to recognize that this is an important American conversation that has been ignored for decades. You might not like the way that President Trump and Secretary Kennedy are setting this conversation up and teeing it off. Okay, that's great. But at least the conversation is now happening. The fact that I was a father, a very involved husband and father for 4 pregnancies, the first one in 1999. And for those 4 pregnancies, we were told Tylenol is A-OK, no problem. And now, well, listen to this doctor who took to social media to try to shed some light on this. This is cut 8.
Some of you are hearing that acetaminophen and Tylenol are bad, but we really don't know why. So let me break it down why it's bad. And we've known this for a really long time. It's just our public health policy in the United States is absolute garbage. So here we go. When Tylenol is detoxified, it produces a toxic byproduct called NAPQI. This causes a lot of problems for the liver. It causes brain inflammation. It causes problems systemically. This is not just a kid problem. This is also an adult problem. As we age, glutathione storages become depleted. And if we don't have optimal glutathione, then this NAPQI can increase and build up and cause issues. Tylenol and acetaminophen can pass through the placenta really, really easy. In children and fetuses, they tend to have really low storages of glutathione in general. And so this causes a lot of problems. This can cause NAPQI to build up in a fetus or in a child, and this causes oxidative stress, this causes liver injury, this causes brain inflammation and neurodevelopmental issues, this causes all sorts of stuff too. So in general, we've been saying this for a really long time, we don't like our patients taking Tylenol for this one thing. On top of that, when somebody is really sick and they take Tylenol for a fever, they deplete their glutathione, which in turn causes them to be sick longer. It makes zero sense. Yeah. Plus, your fever can be really important as long as it's not life-threatening. We like fevers.
By the way, I'm a man in my 50s. I'm as big as a horse. I'm relatively healthy. My doctors tell me that I should watch it with ibuprofen, with aspirin, with Tylenol, with all these things. That's Dr. Josh Redd, by the way, multiple advanced degrees.
But he's a chiropractor. He's a neuropathic. I don't know. That to me is not someone I would take the medical advice of.
Okay. Well, the beauty of it that we all have our choices to take medical advice from doctors that we trust and we've been successful with. But was anything that he said incorrect?
I mean, I don't know because I'm not a doctor, but when I spoke to my OBs and my midwives who, ranged the scale of not at all crunchy to very crunchy, it was not this like black and white, you cannot take it, this is crazy, we've known this forever. That's not the messaging that I got as a pregnant individual over the course of the last 12 years.
The messaging I got was it's perfectly, those were the words, perfectly safe. And it turns out that there are various precautions that people should look at. That's why the conversation's happening now. And there's nothing wrong with that, and I'm glad that it is. It is 6:24. It's 6:30 now, and coming up, we're going to talk about Ben Affleck and Jennifer Gardner's daughter, Violet Affleck. She was at the UN, and, well, she's a world shaper, this Violet Affleck. She's a youth advocate. She makes Greta Thunberg look like Winston Churchill. Just wait till you hear what she's advocating for. Coming up next.
WMAL-FM, Woodbridge, Washington, a Cumulus media station. Making sense of the news. News Talk 105.9. News now. Now on 105.9 FM and streaming worldwide on the WMAL app. O'Connor and Company.
It's 6:37. Thanks for tuning into O'Connor and Company. Coming up at 7:05, Jonathan Fahey, former acting ICE director on that violent shooting targeting ICE agents in an ICE facility yesterday. 7:35, KT McFarland. And then at 8:05, Representative Jim Jordan. I'm Larry O'Connor alongside Bethany Mandel. Good morning, Bethany.
Good morning. And I just need to say that this next segment is why I do radio with you and wake up at 3:30 in the morning, because I am so here for this next segment.
Oh, good to know. Well, I mean, listen, you're the perfect person to talk about this, because you, along with your buddy Carol Markowitz, wrote an important book, Stolen Youth, right?
Yes, and I have a podcast and a Substack, The Mom Wars.
Right.
I'm terrible at plugging that.
Yeah, I ain't gonna do it for you anymore.
And really? That's
no,
it?
No, it's
enough. The statute of limitations?
Exactly. I'm done pampering you, trying to do your heavy lifting. Yes, the Mom Wars, where you focus on the idea of stolen youth and the fact that the last several years have really been traumatic for children, frankly, and it's been at the hands, sadly, of our government, our public policy experts, and sadly, wokeified parents who are either too politically motivated to actually be good parents, or I think in many cases they've been duped. I think, again, I could go on and on about the trauma that parents had to deal with when pediatricians told them that if they didn't go along with a gender transition for their prepubescent child, their child would commit suicide. that emotional blackmail is just a perfect example of what has been inflicted upon parents and children over the last several years. I set that up as the premise because I want you to hear from one Violet Affleck, the daughter of actors, Hollywood stars Jennifer Garner and Ben Affleck. Violet Affleck is 19 years old. She was a youth advocate at the UN this week. This is Violet Affleck while wearing a canine, is it canine? I forget the name of these kinds of masks.
Yes.
I blocked it all out.
No,
it's not.
Too.
It's not canine. Canine is a dog. Getting that, the big super duper.
Oh my God, I too blocked this out.
Yeah. She's wearing a mask and speaking through the mask into the microphone at the UN. And here's Violet Affleck, of all the things that a 19-year-old child is trying to advocate for and convince the United Nations what cause she wants them to take up. Take a listen.
And we are told by leaders across the board that we are the future. But when it comes to the ongoing pandemic, our present is being stolen right in front of our eyes. For adults, the relentless beat of back to normal, ignoring, downplaying, and concealing both the prevalence of airborne transmission and the threat of long COVID, manifested in a series of choices. Young people lacked both real choice in the matter and information about what was being chosen for us. Here's what we know about SARS-CoV-2. It is airborne, floating and lingering in the air. One infection can result in disabling damage to almost every cell in the body, from the brain and heart to the nerves and blood vessels. Every subsequent infection increases the risk of long COVID and places people who already have it in greater danger. Here's what we don't know, is what it does to reinfect children over and over and over again with no end point in sight from the day they are born. We are about to find out. As Dr. Akiko Iwasaki says, at this point, the whole population is the control group, and after only 5 years, long COVID has surpassed asthma as the most common chronic illness in children.
Okay. And by the way, just full disclosure, I don't know who Dr. Kiyosaki is or whether Dr. Kiyosaki might be a chiropractor or not, which, by the way, I'm a big fan of chiropractics. The point is, that was at a panel called Healthy Indoor Air, a global call to action, where she is advocating for the UN to use its force, power, and might, which it has none, to compel mandatory masking. It should also be pointed out that one Violet Affleck was 14 years old when the pandemic hit, and boy, oh boy, are we looking at some damaged goods here, Bethany.
Yeah. I have a policy normally that I don't talk about the children of public figures because I have children and I am a public figure, but she has decided to put herself on the world stage, and so
That's right.
I have opinions. And my opinion is she has severe health anxiety. There is not something right there. And this is the problem with a lot of the way that the left talks about parenting, and that instead of treating mental illness, they validate mental illness, and we see that, of course, with the trans stuff. But with this too, no one has sat her down and said, "Honey, let's have a real, honest risk analysis conversation about COVID. You're okay. It's okay. You can take the mask off and live your life." And instead, she has become subsumed in the omni-cause. Something that our lovely executive producer, Heather Hunter, pointed out that I wasn't aware of was that she started the speech actually talking about Palestine.
Yeah.
And so it's all the same stuff. Climate change, Palestine, masks, COVID. It all falls under the omni-cause umbrella. And it's so incredibly corrosive and maddening. And it's driven her mad.
And you're right. And mom and dad didn't actually parent her. They celebrated this about her and encouraged it. And by the way, it should also be pointed out, I don't know how many children they had, Ben and Jennifer
3.
Garner. They're no longer married. How many? 3?
3.
One of them you just heard from. Another one of them has transitioned their gender, right? And
yes, correct.
No word on the third child. We'll let you know as soon as we find out. There you go. Thankfully, the United Nations is not taking up Ms. Affleck's cause. And again, I want to point out, even if they did, it doesn't matter. It's 6:43.
Later this morning on the Chris Plant Show, another day, another Democrat Party sniper with political messages on his shell casings. 9 a.m. on WMAL.
It's 6:48. Bethany Mandel and Larry O'Connor here on O'Connor and Company. And there was a leak late yesterday And we don't know where this leak came from, but it's being reported that James Comey, the former FBI director and now mystery novelist and seashell artist, is expected to be indicted in the coming days. This is according to 3 sources familiar with the story telling MSNBC. Now, that tells me that this leak came from James Comey and James Comey's team. Obviously, there are only two entities who would know if James Comey was close to being indicted, and that would be the Justice Department and James Comey. And the fact that this leak got to MSNBC tells me that James Comey is trying to get ahead of the story. And let's be fair, James Comey knows a thing or two about leaks. In fact, illegal leaks might be one of the things that he could be indicted for.
I mean, the thing that I learned over the course of the last few years, and it's thanks to Comey, is how crazy and unbalanced so many people in scary high positions of power are. I would not have anticipated we had someone who had such a poor grasp on reality in such a high position until Twitter, honestly. I'm so grateful for Twitter for exposing that. But, I mean, this could be anything.
Yeah, it could be. And my speculation is that it's abuse of power, and because he admitted as much. When he was selling his first book, he was interviewed for an event by Nicole Wallace of MSNBC, and he talked about entrapping General Flynn, the National Security Advisor for President Trump, and, bragged about how he abused his power. Here's Cut 11. Take a listen.
You look at this White House now, and it's hard to imagine 2 FBI agents ending up in the sit room. How did that happen?
I sent them. Something I probably wouldn't have done or maybe gotten away with in a more organized investigation, a more organized administration. In the George W. Bush administration, for example, or the Obama administration, the protocol, 2 men that all of us have perhaps increased appreciation for over the last 2 years. And in both of those administrations, there was process. And so if the FBI wanted to send agents into the White House itself to interview a senior official, you would work through the White House counsel, and there'd be discussions and approvals and who would be there. And I thought it's early enough, let's just send a couple guys over.
Yeah, if that doesn't radicalize you, it certainly should, especially the laughter and the tone that James Comey took, bragging about the abuse of his power as the director of the FBI. Apparently, by the way, Mark Hemingway reminded me of this on his article. Before the Flynn interview, FBI counterintelligence chief wrote a memo asking, what's our goal? To get the truth or an admission from him, or to get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired? It was the latter, by the way, apparently. Oh, and who was that FBI special agent who went and interviewed James Comey to get him to lie so we can prosecute him or get him fired? That was Peter Strzok.
Wow.
The same FBI head of counterintelligence who was trading messages with his girlfriend, who he was cheating on while at the FBI, about how they were going to get Donald Trump if he should ever get elected. I don't know. Seems to me that that's, if they're looking for something to potentially bring down an indictment against James Comey, that's a good place to start.
Wild. The hubris. And I think they were so they were so shameless because there was no belief or expectation that there would be consequences at the end of this road.
That's right. It's that usually when someone abuses their power like this, it's because they're arrogant enough to think that they're not abusing their power. 6:52.